Hey guys, welcome back to Sound Off with Bernadette. You are listening to the 2025 Marathon Show, Most Shared Show, and Rising Star podcast. You're about to find out why. Now, if you paid attention to the last episode that I made on this very subject, I gave you a breakdown as to what the numbers are, what the facts are, what was going on. Now, this is going to be a part 2, and I do believe this is going to be a little bit of a mini series as things go along. And I realize more that's going on psychologically as well as spiritually. So let's get into it. We have to look at the core of what's going on here and why there's a demonic panic when it comes to Michael Jackson's high approval rating right now. Donald Trump is sitting at a 30-something, right? But Michael Jackson is sitting at a 67 and rising. His popularity is at 98%. Approval rating is at 67. So once you get beyond 50, and you're a man like Michael Jackson that believed in Christ, well then, the demonics are going to do whatever they can to try to take him down again. And since they can't do it physically, they're going to try to do it. They're going to try to murder him again through public opinion. Let's get to the facts. There's a psychology that's going on here that not a lot of people are talking about with those people that don't like Michael Jackson. The real sickos are them. Because you want this lie to be true. You want it to be true. You want there to be victims. You want there to be this thing that he did to them for you to satisfy your pompous need to be holier than thou. Even though he was exonerated, vindicated, and watched for over a decade after the trial ended. But that's still not enough for you. You want it to be true. So who's the real pedophile here? It ain't him. It's you for wanting it to be true. You want it to be true. Irrespective of everything else that's been said to the contrary and proven to the contrary, you want it to be true. You want it to be true. Because you're looking for things. And I'm talking to the Michael Jackson haters out here. You want it to be true. What does that say about your psychology? You're the real pedophile. You are, not him. Think about it. Why would you need for it to be true? Why would you fight so vehemently against him being proved innocent? Why do you want it to be true so fucking badly? We got to go deep into the psychology of the Michael Jackson haters. Have you ever been to the side of the Michael Jackson love train and how light and happy it is? And we're attractive too. Sorry, I've noticed some things, okay? You go to the Michael Jackson hater portion of social media, is so dark and heavy. And they're ugly. I'm sorry. Michael Jackson supporters are attractive people. We just are, okay? I mean, I know that that's irrelevant in the context of this conversation, but you just notice energies, you know? So let's get into the factoids, shall we? You see, today we're going to be doing a forensic deep dive into something beautiful that's happening in real time. Okay, we are witnessing the absolute collapse of the mainstream media monopoly is really what it is. And honey, it is a beautiful sight to behold. You see, the Bible tells us that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And right now, the tables are completely turning, and that's happened across the board. Those that have turned their backs on God are not having a great time of the shift that's happening right now. They're so used to winning, and they're the ones that are losing right now. Look at the table turning. Those that have been left behind are finding their voice and taking up space, and the ones that have been ahead are not liking it, and they don't know how to deal with it. And this is happening in very various ways across the board, no matter what community you're a part of. See, for decades, especially back in the 90s and early 2000s, corporate media networks and supermarket tabloids held the absolute keys to the kingdom. They had the only microphones. If they printed a sensationalized headline or a biased evening news segment, the public just had to sit there and consume it. They had to eat it. Excuse me. There was no alternative. The primary source documents, the transcripts, the FBI files, they were locked behind courthouse doors. They thought they had the permanent final say. You know the saying, when the tables turn, and they do turn, ... ellipsis. They forgot one thing, though. The truth is a long game. We're living in a brand new era, guys. The gatekeepers have officially lost their keys. Because today, we don't need a middleman to tell us what to think. We refuse to let corporate conglomerates spoon feed us a narrative. We dig for that truth ourselves. We are our own journalists now. We read the PDFs, we pull up the unedited court transcripts, and we look at the actual receipts. For those of you that are just joining me and discovering who I am, I want you to see 2 different documentaries, and they're free. You don't got to pay them. They're not behind a paywall. Danny Wu's Square One about Michael Jackson, and the other one, which is called Ungloved. Watch both of them. But I think you should watch, first and foremost, the Danny Wu one, and then watch the other one. Okay? You see, because the public has finally begun doing their own research, the court of public opinion has completely overturned the media's verdict on Michael Jackson. Let's look at the actual data, because the numbers are screaming. They're screaming right now. According to the latest tracking data from YouGov, Michael Jackson's fame recognition is sitting at a massive 98%, and his positive approval rating is at a whopping 67%. 6-7. I can hear the jokes already. You know, I speak to millennials and newer generations too. To put that into perspective, less than 12% of the population holds a negative view of him now. So the demonics couldn't have that, could they? What are they going to use to try to kill this man again? The spirit of the air. Satan is the spirit of the air. Right? Mm-hmm. Because why would you, as a Michael Jackson hater, want these allegations to be true so fucking badly? What type of brain are you looking through your eye holes with? He's not the pedophile. You are. If you're a Michael Jackson hater and you believe those allegations, you're the fucking pedophile. I said what the fuck I said. And I stand 10 toes down on it. I don't care who the fuck you are when I say this. I really don't care who you are. If you believe that he was the pedophile, if you believe that those allegations were true, you're the fucking pedophile because you want that shit to be true. You're the pedophile. You need to be studied. You need to have your computers looked at. What they did to him for like a decade after the trial was over and he was exonerated and vindicated, they need to come to your fucking house and go through all your shit and tear your shit upside down. Because you're the fucking pedophile. If you believe that that man was a pedophile. You're the fucking pedophile. You are. You are. And I will say it all throughout social media. I will say it when I respond to these motherfuckers. I will say it. Let them see what they look like in the court of public opinion to other people. This need for we gotta study this, guys. This need for there to be, why do you need for there to be victims if there aren't? Why is there a need for there to be victims? This psychological need in your brain, why do you have this need for there to be victims? Why do you need to create victims where there are none? There's something deeply psychologically fucked up about you if you need for there to be victims, if it's been proven that there were none. You're a fucking pedophile. Walking around amongst us. Family, co-workers. If you believe that that man was a pedophile. Because you want there to be some truth. Any truth, even a kernel. Just so you can satisfy your sick fucking need for there to be victims. You need to be studied. You need to be studied. That your mind goes that way. That your mind automatically goes that way. Why? Why does your mind automatically go to that kind of thing? You don't have an innocent mind. And they call us cult members. You're the real cult members. Anywho. So, now that we put that into perspective, what we really are seeing here is that the world has looked past the tabloid noise and his legacy is standing taller than ever. And that's a threat to the demonic kingdom because this is a man that had influence back then and has influence now. What are people doing as Michael Jackson supporters, fans? We're doing positive things with that. People are doing altruistic, philanthropic things. People are volunteering at soup kitchens and doing charity work. And we're doing all of these things as a result. What are the Michael Jackson haters doing? They're not doing anything to help anyone. Your sick need for there to be victims. There's a need. There's a psychological need. And we're going to look that up. What is that? I'll do it as a bonus episode on here once I do that part of the research. We're going to look this up. All it takes is a Google search, my friend. My librarian is on a first name basis with me, okay? I'm always in there researching before I get on here. You see, you want to talk about real consumer action? The charts don't lie. I'll reiterate it. Danny Wu's documentary Square One, which systematically tears down the logistics of the 1993 shakedown, is climbing all the way back to number 7 on streaming. Meanwhile, the other documentary, Ungloved, is commanding the absolute number 1 spot. The people are actively streaming the truth. And it's translating to the music charts too. MJ just broke an all-time record, becoming the first artist in history to land a Billboard Hot 100 hit in 6 consecutive decades with his track Chicago. So this is not just a fan versus non-fan thing. This translates to the artists also that he's absolutely overshadowing. We're talking to you, Beyonce. We know you don't like it when you're number 2 on anything. And she's a Virgo too. Michael Jackson was a Virgo, and so is Beyonce. And we all know that Beyonce doesn't like to be number 2 at anything. A man dead for over a decade, dominating the charts from the grave. A man that believed in Jesus, guys. That's what this is really all about. They would like to sell it to you that this is about the trial and this is about the Sony catalogs. But let's look at what this is really about. A black man in power with influence that can bring people to Christ. That's what this is all about. That's why the demonic kingdom is doing what they are doing and taking as many of you Michael Jackson haters as they can to keep this fire going against Michael Jackson. Because if you think like that, when you see videos of Michael Jackson being pure-hearted, then you're the pedophile if you can think that way. It's also revealing how our minds are. If you have an angelic mind compared to a demonic mind. It's revealing more about you guys than it is about him. And those are fucking facts. Let's just get to the fucking marrow of the thing, shall we? They can't stand to have a black man, a dead black man at that, a dead black man that believed in Christ, and not only believed in him, but lived the way Jesus wanted us to live. They can't have that kind of a man in power. They did it to Jesus, and now they're doing it to Michael. Am I comparing Michael to Jesus? No. No. Let's make something abundantly clear. But we are, as people of Christ, taught to emulate Christ. And if somebody successfully is doing that, they become a threat to the demonic kingdom. There's no difference. If they hated me, know that if they hate you, says the Lord, if they hate you, know that they hated me first. It's part of taking up your cross. Absolutely fucking not, guys. We're not going to let this narrative try to get a new life. Because something like that, it needs a human host. And it's not enough for the demonic. I hate calling it a kingdom. But for the demonic narrative, it's not enough for one person to hate Michael. Nobody cares about that one person hating Michael, right? It has to be a group of people for it to be paid attention to, right? Right? Michael Jackson supporters keep streaming his music, especially Invincible. Especially Invincible. Because that's the one that they tried to tear down. Especially Invincible. I'll say it again. Keep streaming Invincible, the whole entire album. Wherever you can. As often as you can. Keep supporting the movie that's out in theaters. support it when it's on streaming. There are things that we can do. We have control where we put our dollars. And they know this. Netflix stock is dropping. And that's good for them. You're about to bury your fucking selves with this undertaking. You'll take money from anywhere it comes, won't you? Not all money is good money, friend. You want to get back up there? Yank this ridiculous documentary from your rolls. But since you won't, it's also actually, you know what? God lets things happen to show things that he already knew. It's the power of allowance, right? Displaying things by not putting your hand in it. By us seeing this, it shows how people think. That there are people out there that would want this to be true. And it's not about protecting the victims, quote unquote. It's the fact that they want there to be victims, because if you want to maintain a lie and want to give it power, because think of the lie itself. The lie is a machine. Right? The lie is, okay, to give it a better analogy, it's a parasite. If you don't give it what it needs to survive, it dies. And Michael Jackson being loved again was killing that parasite. And they're annoyed because the people that want these lies to be true are annoyed with us Michael Jackson lovers. I'm so sorry that I paused there. My order is coming in, so I have to keep an eye out. So I'm going to wrap this up a little bit. So they tried it. They really tried to erase him. But you cannot cancel an absolute force. A black man from Gary, Indiana. He wasn't raised with a silver spoon in his mouth. Okay? This rags to riches thing is what people hold on to. It's inspirational. A black man from the poor part of Gary, Indiana, middle America, that before he died gave his life to Christ. And having him be popular again is a threat to those people that are against Jesus, that were against Jesus back in the day, are against Jesus now, and anybody that is a sounding board for Jesus through the way he lives and how he speaks and what he does for the world is a threat to the demonics. And if you believe that that man hurt those children, you're the pedophile. You are, not him. You are. You're the pedophile. You're a pedophile and you need to seek help, psychological help. Because you want that shit to be true. You want it to be true. Now, let's talk about a dish best served freezing cold. While independent truth-seeking is charting at number 1 and number 7, what is happening to the corporate machines that try to control the documentary narrative for profit? Let's check a Wall Street receipt. Netflix stock has absolutely plummeted. It's taken a nosedive. As we speak, NFLX is trading right around $82 a share. Let's do the math on that, shall we? from its 52-week high of $134.12 a share. That's a staggering drop of nearly 39%. They just bled another 6.5% this past month alone, scraping the absolute floor of their yearly value. So we all know who's behind this Michael Jackson hate. It's money. About money. Investors are panicking because the corporate streaming formula has officially hit a ceiling. They're trying to squeeze subscribers with $27 a month premium plans. Their profit margins are feeling the squeeze from overhyped production costs. And co-founder Reed Hastings, we're talking to you, is officially stepping down as his chairman term expires. The corporate media machine isn't just losing the trust of the people, they are losing billions on Wall Street. That's what this is all about, baby girl, baby boy. So, when you build an empire on sensationalism, extortion, and burying the truth for clicks, eventually the foundation rots. The corporate giants are bleeding out, the independent researchers are taking up space unapologetically, and the king of pop is still sitting on the throne. Don't fucking mess with MJ. You see, back then, they gave us headlines and expected us to believe them. Today, we have the transcripts. The gatekeepers lost their keys. We own the microphones now, and we brought the receipts. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to check my front door to see if my groceries are here, okay? Hold on just a second. These broadcasts happen live as I'm living my life, so apologies. Let me just check the notification here. Okay, it's just saying that it will be delivered soon. Okay, I did a big grocery shopping, so it's going to be close to 40 items, so yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about the 1993 Transamerica receipts. I've talked about this a couple of times on the previous episode, but it's not sinking in with these Michael Jackson haters. They ignore the statistics because they want this narrative to be true. You really have to look at your partner, your sister, your brother, anybody that's a Michael Jackson hater. You got to look at them closely now, guys. You see, I hate this divisive bullshit. I really do. But we really have to start looking at this, right? The fact that they would want this shit to be true. What does it say about that person that's close to you, their mentality and their psychology? If you believe this man could be a herder of children, what does that say about you? If you have the opportunity to really look at court documents and look at all of the facts and still want to believe it's true, no matter what is being shown to you to the contrary, and you still want it to be true, even though you don't say it with your mouth, you want it to be true. This whole train of I believe the victims. Listen, what is that really doing if there were no victims? What is your psychology like? Creating quote unquote victims. Because you want to feed this lie and make it become the monster that it was back in the 90s. I'm just saying. You trust your kid's teacher at school, right? You drop them off with not a fucking thought in the world, right? You drop off your kids with your sister, your brother, your cousin, all of these people. How do you destroy a man I'll tell you why. This is how you destroy a man that is a good man, that helped other people, that lived the way Christ would have wanted us to live. He wasn't perfect, of course, but he was a good man, philanthropic and altruistic. What do? How do you kill him? Right? You kill him spiritually and mentally before you kill him physically. Right? You take the thing that he loves the most and use that against him. Right? Especially when that man is a rags to riches story, a poor man from the working class section of Gary, Indiana, grew up like a lot of the black families that were there at the time, raised in the same way, and through his own sheer talent, made something of himself. Before he left this world, he gave his life to Christ. And the people that were running the show couldn't have that narrative spun to have a Jesus influence amongst the people, because then it would change things. Everything that Michael Jackson wanted in his songs, like Earth Song, we would do things after his death. Right? That's what this is all about. This isn't even about the Sony catalogs, in my humble opinion. It's about his influence as a believer in Christ, what he could have done with that influence, how he could have changed the world. So they had to take him out. What do they use against him? The very things that he loved the most, children. And it broke his fucking heart. It killed him. He may have still been having his heart beating and have brain activity and been functioning. But this trial, it broke him. Because in his mind, he was like, how can people think that about me? How does people's minds even be influenced that way? You see, Michael was too innocent for this world. When you have a childlike mind and the people up top that are in control of everything have demonic minds, they're going to use, in order to kill you, they're going to use what you love the most against you. And all it takes is somebody financially greedy enough. You see, but these Michael Jackson haters don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that they've been manipulated. They want to call us manipulated. You see, let's get into the actual legal receipts of the 1993 case again. Because when you break down what actually happened versus what the news told us for 30 years, it completely exposes the blueprint of how they tried to take him down. Let's talk about the number one lie the mainstream media fed the world. The myth that Michael Jackson personally paid hush money to buy a family's silence. Let's clear the air here and look at the actual corporate structure of that 1994 civil settlement. First major fact. Michael Jackson did not make the choice to settle that civil lawsuit. He was completely against it. How many times do we have to fucking tell you that? How many times do we have to tell you that, Michael Jackson haters? How many times do we have to tell you that? You ignore facts. You wipe your ass with facts because you want the narrative against them to be true. What kind of pornographic sick shit does that satisfy in your fucking brain? We gotta look at you. Now we're gonna be looking at you, Michael Jackson haters. You don't like it, do you? Now we're gonna be looking at you. You shouldn't have opened your fucking mouth. Now we're gonna be studying you and exposing you. You see, he wanted to fight this out in court. That's a strong black man right there. He wanted to fight this out in court. He wanted to take this shit to trial. And you never want to take something to trial unless you know you're fucking innocent. Truth does not fear investigation, bitch. The fact that Michael Jackson wanted to fight this out to the fucking bitter end, but his insurance company went against his wishes, is of no bearing on the man's stance as a decent human being. He wanted to fucking fight. Fuck yeah, he wanted to fucking fight. He was saying, no, let's take this shit to fucking trial. You want to fucking put me on trial? Let's do it. You know how he does that with his fingers, right? With the tape on his fingers when he does the little thing with his hands, like to say, come here. Yeah, come here. Let's fucking take this shit to court. You want to take this to court? Let's take this to court. Michael wasn't playing that fucking shit. But his fucking insurance company wanted to get paid. They didn't want this to drag out. If you know you're innocent, you don't mind going to court. And Michael didn't mind going to court. What does that say? You see, Jackson was covered by a massive corporate insurance policy through an entity called Trans-America Insurance. It's his insurance company that did that payment. It wasn't him. It wasn't Michael. None of Michael's money was involved. It was the insurance company's money, not Michael's. That money never came from Michael's account. Dum-dum. How many different languages do you need to hear this in? Do you need to have somebody speak it in Klingon? Now, if you understand standard California insurance law, there is a very specific clause. And let me tell you something. If you need insurance, you're going to look for the best insurance, right? It's the insurance people being money-minded like everybody around him was that wanted to protect their bottom line and keep getting paid. They're the ones, through the insurance company's money, not Michael's. This wasn't drawn from Michael's bank account. This is what a lot of you foolish Michael Jackson haters are not fucking clocking. You see, this is how it works. There's a very specific clause in these multi-million dollar corporate contracts. When a civil injury lawsuit gets slapped against a major policy holder and a global tour like the Dangerous Tour gets derailed, the insurance company holds the autonomous legal right to settle the claim to protect their own financial risk, not Michael's. Transamerica looked at the numbers, realized a prolonged trial could cost them hundreds of millions in corporate disruptions, but Michael wanted to take this to trial. He was like, fuck y'all. I'm going to fight for my fucking rights. You're not going to fucking try to ring me through the fucking ringer here. I can prove my innocence. And if a person can't prove their innocence, they usually don't want to take this shit to trial. But the fact that Michael did says a lot. If nothing else says that he's innocent, that does. And it's Transamerica decided to cut a check for $23 million. It never came. It never was drawn from Michael Jackson's personal bank account. Because it was cheaper for the insurance company's balance sheet. And we all know about life insurance, guys. Okay? They always try to lowball and they always try to give you less than, they try to lowball everything. They're always trying to save money. They never want to pay money. Okay? So just to keep making money off of Michael Jackson, they decided to cut that greedy family the $23 million check. Michael didn't write that check. The insurance board did. Completely independent of Michael's protests. Second major fact. That settlement, the document, contained a strict non-admissions clause. It explicitly, legally stated that the payment was not an admission of guilt, liability, or wrongdoing by Michael Jackson, but it was a standard corporate resolution of a civil tort claim to protect business assets. And Michael Jackson didn't give a shit about the money. He didn't care how long this trial went. He wanted to prove his innocence. The fact that he was willing to be put on trial for as long as it needed to be on trial says a lot about his innocence, in addition to everything else. Because guilty people usually don't want to be on trial. And here is the absolute kicker that the newspapers completely buried. A private civil settlement cannot legally stop a criminal investigation. A district attorney answers to the state, not a private citizen. The settlement was signed in January of 1994. The criminal grand jury investigations of both Los Angeles and Santa Barbara didn't stop. They continued heavily for months afterward, well into the summer of 1994. The prosecutors ran a massive fishing expedition, desperately hunting for physical evidence, digital forensics, or a single credible witness. And guess what happened? 2 separate grand juries looked at everything and refused to even return in an indictment. Why? Because there was absolutely no evidence. The Chandlers filed a civil lawsuit for cash before any criminal charges were even filed. Intent. They wanted a money grab. Intention still is studied in court cases, guys. If you're asking for a check before any criminal charges are filed, Your intentions are clear. How is any amount of money, if this thing really happened to your child, how is any amount of money going to undo the mental damage for that child, huh? If that actually happened. I know if I had a child and if God forbid that thing happened, there's no money you could pay me that's going to satiate me. I will want that motherfucker in jail for the rest of his life. You wouldn't be able to buy me out. Anyway. His legal team, back then, including Johnny Cochran, knew it was a total trap. In a civil deposition, you don't get full Fifth Amendment protections. And the burden of proof is floor low. The media wanted to use that civil deposition to manufacture a criminal charge. Setting the civil side legally took that weapon out of the media's hands. Tom Mesereau later said that letting the insurance company settle was a public relations disaster because it gave the false illusion of guilt. But legally and structurally, it was a corporate shield maneuver, not a confession. You see? Now, if the 1993 insurance facts didn't freeze them out, let's look at the heaviest weapon in our forensic vault here. The files they literally tried to hide from the public until the Freedom of Information Act forced them open in 2009. You see, sometimes somebody has to go through something like a trial for new laws to be made. Because of this trial, now there's a Freedom of Information Act. Which, if you think about it, Michael Jackson's trial, in addition to him breaking barriers and breaking ceilings of everything else, music charts and everything else, all the records he broke this record too. So he helped the legal system as well. He helped those people be able to do research themselves. This trial helped that along. So there was actually a blessing that came out of this. Let's talk about these FBI files, shall we? The mainstream media spent decades painting this picture of a man operating completely outside the law, but the unsealed documents prove that for over 10 full years, Michael Jackson was subjected to one of the most aggressive, high-tech, multi-jurisdictional surveillance operations in federal history. The FBI wasn't just casually observing, they deployed their elite behavioral analysis units, coordinated directly with international police divisions from London to Manila, and embedded themselves inside local California police raids. So he was being looked at from every way that a person can be looked at. Let's pull up the FBI CART report, or the Computer Analysis Response Team report, from the 2003 raids. You see, the authorities confiscated 16 independent computer hard drives and entire digital media arrays from Neverland Ranch. The federal government's top cyber forensics experts spent months running bite-by-bite audits on those systems. Their final official finding? 0 incriminating evidence, no illicit material, no record of illegal searches, and absolutely nothing to support the media's narrative. So sick of y'all fucking Michael Jackson haters. Y'all are a special bunch, okay? Y'all are special, and I don't use that word special in a nice way, okay? Think about the magnitude of that 333 pages of raw federal investigation files spanning from 1993 all the way through his total acquittal in 2005. If there was even a single shred, a single pixel, a single line of code, or a single shred of corroborating digital metadata, the federal government would have locked them away for life. Instead, their own files show they came up absolutely empty-handed. Not a single federal charge was ever brought against him. This is why Michael Jackson wanted to go to trial. He knew he was innocent. You don't allow that much of your life to be combed through like that unless you know you're innocent. You know you're innocent. You ain't gonna find shit because nothing happened. And it makes me think of people like, and I forget which interview it was. I don't know if it was the Martin Bashir one or some other one, where the maid, or I should say the former maid, that ain't getting fucking paid no more, right? You ain't a paid maid no more, right, bitch? So now you coming on there and saying that he did all these things is a money grab because you're no longer employed by Michael Jackson. So now you're going to say whatever the fuck you can to get paid from wherever source you can get paid because you're not scrubbing his toilets anymore. So you'll say whatever the fuck you need to say to get your rent paid. Right? Right? And the media went completely silent on these files when they dropped in 2009. And 2009 is when they killed him. It's not hard to put these pieces together. Since they didn't get what they wanted, the media didn't get what they wanted, they killed him. They physically killed the man. Well, shit. If we can't have public opinion kill you, if we can't get back what you bought and have it for ourselves so we can continue to make money, then we're going to fucking kill you. And how do we do that? Inject as much into the media as we can so people like Michael Jackson haters can eat that shit up. I've actually seen, because as a journalist myself, I have to look at both sides, okay? And I've seen what people say. I've been on Threads recently, and I've seen people say they are glad he's gone. They're glad that he died. And we're supposed to look at you as a moral compass if you're saying you're glad a man is dead. This is really revealing what people really are. This is why God allows certain things to happen, because he knows that people are going to see things. Certain things are allowed to happen so that we can see for ourselves. Because sometimes, repeatedly being told and told and told and told, we're not going to really get it unless we see it for ourselves. And since that Freedom of Information Act, we're able to see everything for ourselves. And even though all of the evidence points to Michael Jackson's innocence, you're going to have people out there that really want to keep this monster alive. So, unfortunately, a lot of this is like the entire politics debate. Okay? There's so many things that are polarizing. The abortion debate, the religion debate, the politics debate. Now we have this too. Okay? You see, as I said before, the media went completely silent on these files when they dropped back in 2009. Why? Because it completely destroyed the profitable boogeyman narrative they spent 20 years building. They couldn't sell commercial spots on a headline that read, FBI confirms Michael Jackson is innocent. They couldn't sell those types of papers. So they buried it. But independent journalists and fans dug into the government servers, downloaded the raw PDFs, and distributed the truth globally. Let's talk about the sickness of Instagram and the real kernel. Family, we have to go deeper than just the courthouse records and the insurance policies. Because if you look online right now, especially on Instagram, and I'm not really an Instagram fangirly, I'm not really, but I'm on there because, the things that I'm interested in following on there, okay? You'll notice something incredibly twisted. Even though the forensic data is out, even though the documentaries are sitting at number 1 and number seven respectively, and even though his positive approval rating is at an all-time high of 67%, there's a loud, aggressive group of regular people fighting with everything they have to keep the lies alive. I'm not talking about corporate execs or media execs anymore. No, I'm talking about everyday regular people. Some of them used to call themselves fans and have the nerve sometimes to still call themselves fans, but still can buy into this narrative about him. You never were a fan. You never were. Now they're on Instagram comment sections, desperate, clinging like a barnacle to debunked allegations, praying that they are true. Which goes back to what I was saying earlier in this broadcast. Why do you need that shit to be true? What does it say about your own psychology? Can we trust you around kids if you want to so desperately keep this lie alive? What does that say about you? You see, some people will play this shit safe, right? And if they're a Michael Jackson hater, they won't mention him, they won't post his music, they won't talk anything about what's going on right now. Because they don't want to get roasted in the comments. They don't want to get fucking dragged. So they stay away from it. And we all know who these people are, okay? But why? What is the psychological need for these people to invent victims where there are none? What is that sickness? Excuse me. Let's talk about nuance and the layers of this, because it is a spiritual trap. These people have I guess I don't have to have a different episode for this. We're going to talk about it right now. I didn't even realize I had it in my notes. Okay. Let's talk about the nuance and layer of this, because it is a spiritual crap. Spiritual crap? Ah! Did you hear that, guys? I love it. Freudian slip. Spiritual crap, I said, instead of spiritual trap. I didn't mean to say that. It goes to show you what this is. I love it. These people have a deep psychological dependency on feeling morally superior. They cannot feel like a decent human being on their own merit. So they construct a boogeyman. They need Michael to be evil so that they can feel good. They want to force a percentage of the population to hate him just to keep his approval rating down because they are terrified of his influence. They need there to be a victim so that they can play the role of the righteous judge. It is a fake, toxic virtue signaling that depends on destroying a man who was fully vindicated over 15 years ago. But let's get to the real kernel of the issue, ladies and gentlemen. Why is the enemy still chasing him from... Let's rephrase that. Why is the enemy still chasing him beyond the grave? Why are they still trying to kill his character when they can't kill him physically? What is the point? What is left behind him that doesn't require burial? Money. Money. That's what's left. His estate. The body's no longer here, but his estate is. It all comes back to money. And that's for people that invent themselves as victims of him. Listen, 15 years later, 17 years later, victims, quote unquote victims coming forward. If you're a fucking victim of somebody, why would you wait 15 years to come forward? Why would you wait that long? Believe victims. You're going to hear it from the believe all victims crowd. And that in itself, we're going to have to do that as a separate episode. The believe all victims thing. No, that's a money grab. That's a money grab. You see, it's not about the Sony music catalog. It's not about the money. It's about because of who Michael Jackson belonged to. 2 weeks before Michael Jackson was taken from us, he formally gave his life to Jesus Christ. He didn't just talk the talk. He walked the walk and he lived it. Think about the spiritual magnitude of that. Michael Jackson is still the most recognizable and influential human being on the face of the earth, with a name recognition of 98%. If that man's legacy stands vindicated, if his approval numbers keep climbing to 67% and beyond, people are going to look at his final days and see his true, unshakable belief in Jesus. And that's a threat to the demonics. A figure with that much global reach leading a generation to Christ? The enemy cannot have that. That is why they are panicking on social media. They're trying to assassinate his character today because his voice is still speaking from beyond the grave, and it is pointing people to the kingdom. They are fighting a battle that they already lost. The receipts are out, the charts are moving, and the truth is completely out of their control. So guys, keep doing your research, keep standing in the light, and never let them compromise the truth. We, the people, are the journalists now. You guys, thank you for locking in with me today. I'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.